Hello and welcome to Sports Fan Entertainment as the NFL free agency period is now underway, and man, oh man, is Ran Carthon cooking. All right, this is what we anticipated. This is what I warned would happen. And a couple weeks ago when it was official that we were going to have $78 million in cap space, I was like, okay, here we go. This is when Red Carthon gets to spend his money and he begins to form the team in his own image. People last year were so critical of him for not spending money that we did not have, by the way, and just kind of having a quieter offseason as he integrated into Tennessee. But as long as you could have just, looked forward and said, well, next year, Tannehill's going off the books. Most likely Henry's going off the books. Maybe we trade Byard and we ended up trading Byard. There's going to be a lot more money to spend, and then you're going to start to see him form his team. And then when Mike Vrabel's dismissal and him being promoted, it was time for Ran Carthon to take this team and to begin to mold it. He got Brian Callahan in here. Callahan has built out this coaching staff, and now we are spending money, people. I mean, I have to sit down and, whenever all these contracts come out and see, okay, exactly like how much the cap hits are going to be for this year. But I mean, total money right now, it's over 200 million or something at this point, or close to 200 million total in terms of contracts that have been given out, because you have like Ridley, who we're going to get into, Cushenberry, maybe not 200, maybe it's like closer to 150. But it's just a lot of money being shoveled, and we're not done. I mean, apparently we're not done, because we're still in contact, and we're going to talk about all these things, but we're still in contact with Chase Young. We're still in contact with Eric Armstead. We're still possibly going to get, involved in Justin Simmons. I mean, I knew we were going to sign a decent amount of players. This is a lot, and this is still day one. I mean, obviously it's like after 2 days of the tampering period, but there's a lot more than I was even anticipating. I mean, you're talking about a lot of players. So we have a lot to get into, so let's go ahead and get into all of these names, and including the re-signings that the Titans have been making over the last couple of days. So we begin with a big name. Wide receiver Calvin Ridley, 4 years, $92 million, $50 million guaranteed. Now, I'm excited for this, and I'm happy about this. However, I do have to be fair here. It's an overpay, okay? In my opinion. Now, some people might disagree with that. Calvin Ridley, to me, is a very, very good number 2 wide receiver, or a low-end number 1, but I'd prefer for him to be a number 2. But if he's your number 2, that's a very good number 2 right there. This is a guy that has broken 1,000 yards. Hell, he broke 1,300 yards with the Falcons, and the last year had over 1,000 yards with the Jaguars, pretty much as their leading receiver. And, he used to be that number 2 to Julio Jones, and what a number 2 he was to Julio Jones. And remember, all the way back in 2018, I actually wanted Calvin Ridley over Rashaan Evans. We took Rashaan Evans in that draft, and we needed an inside linebacker at the time, but we needed a wide receiver, in my opinion, too. And I knew that we took Corey Davis the year before, and at the time, I still really liked Corey Davis, but I thought we needed to double down and take another wide receiver in Calvin Ridley, but we took Rashaan Evans. So Calvin Ridley is a guy I've had my eye on for a while as a very good number 2 wide receiver. Is he a number 1? In my opinion, you don't want to be a number 1. And if he is, you better have a very good quarterback. So it has to be a situation where, Mahomes can get away with maybe not having a quintessential number 1 wide receiver like a Rashee Rice, because he's so talented. He's going to spread the rock around anyway, so it's fine. So we gave him number 1 wide receiver money, okay? He's getting paid only $2 million less a year than A.J. Brown. Now, A.J. Brown was, signed 2 years ago, so obviously, the contracts always go up and up and up. But, this is it's like about 9th wide receiver money in terms of the NFL. He's not the best 9th wide receiver in the NFL. In fact, I don't know, if I had to sit down and make a list, I don't know if I'd have him top 20. I don't think so. Top 25-ish. He'd be there, but there's a lot of talented wide receivers in the NFL. We just don't have. Well, we have one in DeAndre Hopkins, but we haven't historically had any. So I don't want people to go crazy here. For me, it's worth overpaying, though, because we have all this money. You're going to, if you want to get the talent in here and quicker rather than, just having to draft, and we should draft, and we will draft, in my opinion, as still a wide receiver. You're going to have to overpay, right? So we overpay. Now, it's a ninth, highest in terms of average salary for wide receiver today. Okay, probably by next year, it'll be like 15th. And then maybe the year after that, it'll be like 20th. And then it'll be worth it. Okay? For right now, it's a slight overpay. It's not the biggest overpay I've ever seen. T. Higgins is going to get more, in my opinion. It'll be close. And T. Higgins is younger, so I would have preferred like a T. Higgins. But you have to trade for T. You don't have to trade for Calvin Ridley. So I like it, and I like it this upcoming year as I would think it's going to be close. Between him and Hopkins, I'm not sure because I underrated what Hopkins was going to do this year. So it's going to be close. They're both going to be, ideally, I don't want to go too crazy here. 900,000 yard-ish, both in the same range, 1A, 1B. Whoever ends up being 1A, whoever ends up being 1B, that's fine. However, what you also have to keep in mind, he is 29, not too old. Hopkins is like, what is he now, going to be 31? I still want a wide receiver. Now, this does put it in a position now where, okay, I'm now in the boat of, okay, take Alt or take Olu Fashanu, unless if Malik Neighbors is there, I'm still very interested in Malik Neighbors because I think he's going to be an absolute beast and I like him better than Joel. Odunze, at this point, you can take him. I'm not going to hate if you take Rome Odunze. I'm not going to complain, but now the more obvious move is to take a tackle because you still don't have a tackle, okay? Andre Dillard is still on this team, okay? We signed Sadiq Charles. We're going to get into Sadiq Charles in a moment. At this point, you really have to lean tackle at 7. You really do. Now, if Alt is gone, and there's a good chance he will be, if Neighbors is there and you want to take Neighbors, I'm not going to complain, okay? I'm not going to complain because more likely than not, this will be Hopkins one more year, more likely than not, and then he's gone. More likely than not. Now, if things go well and he enjoys his time, and maybe we make the playoffs, maybe he resigns. I don't know. But then at that point, you're talking about Hopkins being 32, so that's another year on him. So I do think it does decrease the odds and the likelihood that we take a wide receiver at 7. I won't say it removes it. I will also say this. I have been on the train of I don't really want Brock Bowers at 7. I think taking a tight end that high is just a little too much for me. With this signing, I'm now okay with it. Because, and we're going to get into the next man in a moment, we're filling out our offense to the point where I'm like, well, the next position outside of tackle, tight end. So now I'm like, hey, if you talk about Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Tony Pollard, who we're going to get into, Tyjae Spears, and then you throw Brock Bowers in there to combine with Chigo Okonkwo and Will Levis at the helm? Okay, wait a minute. That's actually pretty damn scary if everyone develops and actually this offense is what we think it's going to be. Now I'm actually very intrigued. As opposed to before we had Calvin Ridley, I was like, we still need to prioritize wide receiver way before we prioritize that end. But now, with Ridley here, it's a better position. So yeah, because I'm anticipating, and I could be wrong on this, who knows, we have to go through the year, that Hopkins, this is his last year, just another year, and then I assume he'd move on. I'm assuming that is an assumption. Ridley moving forward, like next year, I don't want him to be the number 1. I prefer for us to have another, either we draft one next year or this year. Or we draft one in the second round this year who develops, and then maybe he's the number 1. Or maybe it's another 1A, 1B, where maybe we don't have a superstar wide receiver necessarily. Because, again, I don't think Calvin Ridley is a superstar wide receiver. I'm not saying he's bad. Again, he's good. I'm happy about this. But, you'd have a nice 1-2 punch again. So you could get another Hopkins level 1,000-yard-ish wide receiver to pair with Calvin Ridley. So I don't want to put, too much on Ridley and expect him to come in here and be a 12, 13, 1,400-yard wide receiver. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if he was going to do that, he would have done that with Trevor Lawrence this year. And he didn't. Now, he wasn't bad. But there were some struggles, though. He did have, I think it was 7 or 8 drops. And in his career, he has had an 8% drop percentage. That's above average. Okay, so there were some inconsistencies. Lawrence threw 4 interceptions to him this year. Right, there were some inconsistent route things and also we had the issue with the gambling, and then which is, I guess you could say is whatever. It depends on your opinion on that. And then he did miss, he took off of 2021 for his mental health. Now it looks like he's healthy now, and he had a resurgence, and maybe now that he's had a year under him, maybe he's even going to elevate his play a little bit more because he did miss 21 and 22. So that's also a possibility. So I like it. Okay, we got a weapon for Will Levis. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying, okay, let's don't go crazy here. We didn't get T. Higgins, who I would have liked or preferred more, and I would have been a little more excited if we didn't get that. But we got a weapon. Okay, we got a legitimate 1,000-yard style wide receiver, and we needed that. Okay, so they're good for Will Levis. Now, Tony Pollard. Wow. Now this is something I was not anticipating. It's funny because all year long I've said I like Tyjae Spears. I'm not convinced, like a lot of people are, that he's a 3-down back and that I would get a running back. Now I was thinking mid-draft. I was not anticipating this. And the weird thing is, stylistically, they're very similar. So at first I was kind of like, wait, why did we do this? But then I was thinking about it more, and I really came to the conclusion of you can now interchange them so much and have them both on the field, both in the backfield, both moving around, creating, deceptive circumstances and situations for defenses to where they have to account for both of them to be, threats not only in the rushing but also the receiving game as well. So while they are kind of stylistically similar, and it kind of, for the Tyjae Spears truthers, it does stink because now he's not going to be that statistical beast, more likely than not. Now, maybe he comes out and maybe he improves and maybe he's so much better than Pollard, they have to make Tyjae basically the bell cow and he'll be the bell cow. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I think it'll be 50-50. I'm anticipating. I don't think you signed Tony Pollard. Now, albeit it wasn't that much. It was only 3 years, $22 million. Wow. Talk about the running back market. Sheesh. These guys are getting screwed, yo. But I think if you're making that signing, it might be 60-40 for either one. Maybe they still like Tyjae more than I don't know. We're gonna have to see on that one. I would probably lean the veteran, and Pollard's not even that old. What is it? Tony Pollard's like 26 years old. So it's gonna be interesting. If I had to guess, everyone's listing Pollard as running back one. I saw people actually doing both. I saw some people saying Pollard's running back one. I saw some people saying Spears running back one. I'm telling you, I don't know. I'm telling you, we're gonna go. If I had to guess, the veteran. Okay, if I had to guess. But I could be wrong. And maybe Spears goes to training camp. He looks better. He gets the nod. They're both going to play. Assuming they're healthy, they're both going to play. So, and this is more like now we're in the modern NFL. See, now you have your modern offensive head coach, and now we have a modern philosophy in terms of our running backs. We have 2 running backs, and we're going to run them both. Gone are the days of Derrick Henry, for good and bad, because it worked for us, and he carried us, and we did well for a while, and now we're with the rest of the NFL. We're doing a committee, okay? So that's what it's going to be. And unless the Pollard just comes in here and he stinks, but I don't think he's going to do that. I like him as a talent. And it's funny, though, because I kept saying, yeah, like even throughout this offseason, because people were saying, yeah, no, I think Tyjae is going to be that bell cow. I was like, I think he's going to be like a Tony Pollard. And now we have Tony Pollard. So, interesting. I did not see this one coming, but I think, again, it's another weapon in this offense. And I think you can't really, and this was cheap. Now, unfortunately, we have Derrick Henry, who now signed with the Baltimore Ravens. He got 2 years, $16 million up to $20 million. I prefer that we did this. And I know it sucks because we don't want to see Derrick Henry in a Ravens jersey yet again. We have to have a Titans legend go to those damn Baltimore Ravens. I don't understand why this keeps happening. I don't understand. Now, it hasn't really worked out, okay? Mostly. But it didn't really work out for Steve. And then for, why am I blanking on his name right now? Wide receiver, shoot. Someone in the chat remind me who's our legend wide receiver that went over there too. But it worked out better for him. But it didn't work out for Steve, and then some others that have left as well hasn't really worked out. So we'll see what happens with Derrick Henry. And if I had to guess, who knows? It's going to be a mess now because, again, we have Pollard and Spears. I think they're all going to get like 700-800 yards, and maybe not all of them. But, okay, let's say Henry and Pollard do. And then, Spears 600-700. I don't know. It's all going to be about the same. I don't think any one of them is going to break 1,000 yards next year. I don't think. Because if I'm the Ravens, I still want to play Mitchell, who I think was very interesting in the Spurs that he played last season. And I think that that's somebody. Derek Mason, duh. Okay, someone reminded me Derek Mason in the chat who I was referring to also went to the Ravens. But if I had to guess, it's all going to be about maybe like what happened this year. I'm pretty sure. Let me check the number that he had. David Montgomery, I'm pretty sure broke 1,000. So, but they were very prolific. Like the Lions rushing attack, yeah, he did break 1,000 barely. He had 1,015. They were very successful though. And the Jahmyr Gibbs had, let's see what Jahmyr Gibbs had. I think it was like around 700. That's like best case scenario. Oh, he had 945. Wow. So they basically almost had 2,000 yards combined. Right now with and we're gonna get into Cushenberry and the offensive line. I don't think our offensive line is that strong of a running offensive line right now for that to be the case. But I think they could combine and probably will combine for 1,600 to 1,800. 2,000 would be a lot. 2,000 would be okay. Now we're really cooking if that's the case. I wouldn't expect like 2,000. That's a little bit ridiculous, but I love it. I absolutely would take it. So Tony Pollard. That was the next edition for the Tennessee Titans. We continue, and we also have, so let's get into the center now, Lloyd Cushenberry. So Lloyd Cushenberry, the former center for the Denver Broncos, he came in here 4 years, $50 million. Whoa, okay, that was another big money signing that we had there. A big thing for him. Huge pass blocking center. Particularly this year, only allowed 1 sack. I think it was about 14 pressures that he allowed, 9 hurries. So fantastic. That was like, the second fewest sacks for a starting center. Second fewest pressures for a starting center as well. That's his strength. Run blocking is only okay. But he's improved every year. And funny enough, he actually went to college with Joe Burrow and Sadiq Charles. We're going to get into Sadiq Charles. And he has really improved. Every year, he struggled his rookie year, but he's improved every year. Last year was his best year. He was going to get paid, and he got paid. So really what I'm intrigued here is you're going to see a duo, a very interesting pass blocking duo between him and Skoronski that you ideally, and then if you add another tackle there and Joe Alt or Olu Fashanu, that could be the center, for our offensive line and, really the staple of our offensive line for the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe not Lloyd Cushenberry is a little older, but, for a while, okay? Let's just say 5 to 8, okay? And that's exciting, okay? If you could have that center to left tackle position locked down and saying these are not only, this would be, if you get Alt, specifically, if you get Alt there, Skoronski, Cushenberry, that's one of the best left tackle, left guard, center pass blocking trios in the NFL. And now you feel way better about Will Levis being protected. You feel way better about his ability to sit back there and to be able to throw the football and to stay healthy, because God knows you also need him to stay healthy. So fantastic. Love that addition as well. Love adding Lloyd Cushenberry in here. That would be that stalwart pass blocking center. We also got a cornerback in Chidobe Awuzie. So this is the former Bengal, also former Cowboy. He was drafted by the Cowboys. His last year with the Cowboys didn't go well. They let him go. Then he went to Cincinnati where he's played better. Is he a lockdown corner? No. Is he a starting corner? Yeah. And I think it's good. I wouldn't go as far as to say, okay, now we don't have to worry about the quarterback position anymore. Slow your roll there, Haas. So we still need a number one corner, which I don't know if we're going to get this year. I think maybe. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not over yet. We still have free agency to go through. But you're getting to the point where let's say, because we're going to get into some of the other free agents that we're discussing. I haven't heard another corner yet. So I'm assuming that we're not going to get a number one. There's not really many even left at this point. So the draft, there's not one at 7. Okay, so you're not going to draft a cornerback at 7. Do you draft one in the second round? If you don't, you're not drafting one to the 4th. So you're talking about Awuzie and McCrary. Okay, those are your top 2 corners. I think what also you might see later on in the offseason us maybe add another Sean Murphy Bunting, right? You know how we added Sean Murphy Bunting, his last later in the offseason last year to help shore up that quarterback position. I would probably anticipate something else like that. So I guess I feel, I think he's healthier than Christian Fulton. I'll say that, or at least he tore his ACL a couple years ago, but he's been healthy outside of that. With Fulton's inconsistencies, particularly the last couple years, I'll say he's better. I'll say it's barely. I don't think it's significantly better. So if you're expecting, Uzier is going to come in here and be so much better than Christian Fulton, I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know if I'd anticipate that much. But, Fulton out, Uzier in, it's an upgrade. It might be not a significant upgrade, but it's an upgrade. So I like that for sure. Oh, and we also are in on L'Jarius Sneed potentially. You know what? And my thing is on that. I'll take him because he's a talent. I do want to draft players. And the thing is, if you give up, and you probably give up a second for him, I feel like we're not drafting enough players. We only had 6 draft picks last year. We don't have a 3rd this year. So that's my one hang up on Sneed. Now, yes, Sneed would come in here and he'd do well. But I do want us to draft players. I think it's important that you draft players. Now, some teams like this may not agree, like the LA Rams, who love trading away their draft picks. I still think, particularly for us right now, as Will Levis is young and most of our team is young, that we keep drafting players. So I really want to hold on to that 2nd round pick. I'm not going to complain if we get Sneed. I'll be happy if we get Sneed. I think I'm leaning towards keeping that pick. I just want to draft more players, right? I just think we need, because we have a number of 7th round picks this year, but we only have the 7th pick and then the 38th, and we don't pick again until round 4. So I kind of prefer to keep that 2nd, but we'll watch out on Sneed and we'll see what happens there. So we continue. Linebacker Kenneth Murray, former player of the LA Chargers, 2 years, maximum of $18 million. I think it was 2 years, 15.5 officially. Yeah, not great. Okay. He's been a disappointment, severe disappointment ever since being drafted by the LA Chargers, formerly of the Oklahoma Sooners, a guy that coming into the league was an athletic talent, had a lot of upside, and just hasn't really lived up to it. At this point, I like him way more against the run. Even there, he has some missed tackles. He's pretty awful. In fact, he's really awful in coverage. So you have to avoid using him there. But it's not like he's a great pass rusher either. He's just kind of been a disappointment. This is kind of Andre Dillard-ish. Now, you can get away with having a below average inside linebacker way more than you can having a below average, or in this case, awful, left tackle. So I would have spent my money elsewhere. But does he have upside? Sure. Can Denard Wilson get something out of him or get more out of him? Maybe. But Charger fans will tell you he's an absolute disappointment. He's been an absolute disappointment. He's terrible in coverage. He's awful. So it's fine. There's some upside here. We did the same kind of thing with Well, I'll argue Arden Key was actually he was coming off a strong year in Jacksonville, whereas Kenneth Murray hasn't really done that. So it's really like Andre Dillard. I mean, that's kind of really what it is at this point. Webcam just cut out. I'm going to bring it back. 1 second. There we go. So I wouldn't expect much here. He does still have upside, so I'm not completely disregarding him. I'm not saying there's no chance that he has success. I'm just saying up to this point he's been a disappointment. So I wouldn't hold on to your breath there. But the money, look again, it's one of those things where we have money. You know, we have money to spend and we're spending it. I probably would, again, I would have spent it elsewhere. I think there are better linebackers you didn't get, especially you didn't have to sign him day one. Sheesh. He's definitely not like worth rushing out there for, but he has potential still. Quarterback Mason Rudolph. Now, this was interesting. 1 year, $3 million. Now, this got like some pushback from some people. Now, look, I know it's hard for everyone to pay attention to like everything that's going. Mason Rudolph actually played well this year. He had his best year in the NFL by far. When he came in, he was way more impactful than Kenny Pickett. And I'm like, okay, it's a backup quarterback. Like, I would have preferred, okay, Jameis or Jacoby Brissett. Sure. Does it really matter? I mean, seriously. He's a backup. He's not going to play. You weren't going to go out and pay like Gardner Minshew, who's getting paid like 2 years, $25 million or something ridiculous by Las Vegas. You can't do that. Mariota, you can't get him again. Winston, I would have took Winston or Brissett. I think they're better, but not by much. I mean, Rudolph actually like was improved. Rudolph actually finally saw improvement. So maybe this continues. I don't know. Maybe not. But you obviously Tannehill's not coming back. Flacco's too old. I mean, look at the backup quarterbacks out there and tell me who you really want. And you got it for cheap. Because, yeah, some of these other quarterbacks got paid. Yeah, I couldn't believe how some of these guys got paid. So, absolute fan of this. Again, it's cheap. It's whatever. Hopefully he never plays. I don't want him to ever play. Like Trubisky went somewhere. Or he went back to Buffalo. So, Trubisky's back in Buffalo. And they were all backup quarterbacks. I don't know. I don't know what some people really wanted there. But, you had to get somebody. We got somebody. And better to get a guy in free agency there to go out and draft one. I definitely didn't want to spend a draft pick on a quarterback. So I'm happy we didn't do that. All right, so we also signed offensive lineman Sadiq Charles, formerly of the Commanders, 1 year, $2.5 million. He's a backup. It's backup money. He's going to be a backup. But one thing I was surprised, and it's fine actually. It's weird though to me that we got him and we didn't cut Dillard. And now, okay, Charles has been playing guard in the NFL. He played tackle in college, but he's been playing guard in the NFL. So that's fine. I guess you could say, yeah, you could have Dillard and Charles. That's not a problem. But it's intriguing when you're probably still going to draft, not even probably, you are going to draft another tackle. So it's going to be an interesting situation. We're going to have Dillard as a backup, Sadiq Charles as a backup. You're probably going to have, I think Nicholas Petrie is going to start again, I think. And then hopefully he improves and returns to form. Him and Calvin Ridley are, they're going to be betting, doing FanDuel in the locker room. So, that should help him. Andy, look, Sadiq, for someone that, he wasn't highly drafted. He was drafted in the 4th round. And he was a left tackle for Joe Burrow at LSU. I think it's been middling results. It's whatever. I wouldn't anticipate him to play. I mean, at this point, we have, Brunskill and Skoronski as starters. Skoronski at left guard, Brunskill at right. I don't think that's going to change. But if one of them gets injured, Charles is a backup. I'll be honest with you. He's not great. He hasn't been great. I think he still might have some potential in him. Commander fans are not crying to see Sadiq Charles go. Okay, he's been in the competition for guard, and they hope to get more out of him. And he's one of the reasons why they struggle this year. And not just in terms of their pass protection, but also their run blocking. He's been mid at best, in and out, kind of a starter, not really, but we didn't pay him. We only paid him $2.5 million, so doesn't even really matter. Okay, we move on. So that is it for the signings as of now. So this is as of Wednesday. By the way, I took a couple days because I wanted to make sure some of these things are official. Sometimes things can, fall out. But I'm going to continue to monitor things. If there's any more significant signings, I'll come on here and I'll recap them. Let's get into re-signings. So re-signings. So we bring back Morgan Cox that left at long snapper. Also running back Julius Chestnut. Also Nick Folk. Nick Folk, the kicker, he's returning. Again, didn't really make any long kicks, but was very consistent, for kicking in the, below 50 range. So totally fine with that. Nice to have him back. And then we tendered Jack Gibbons, so he'll be back. No one's going to waste a draft pick on trying to sign Jack Gibbons. So you're probably looking at next year, Jack Gibbons and Kenneth Murray, I suppose. Because I don't think we're going to draft a linebacker. I wouldn't. And not in the first two picks, maybe fourth. And, in the fourth round. And then, if that guy is able to, show an impression, then you're able to go out and maybe, start one of those guys or start that guy over Murray or Gibbons. Ideally Murray. But, because I like Jack Gibbons more than Kenneth Murray right now. But Murray still has potential. Like I said, the potential's there. We'll see. So that was it, Chestnut, whatever, Morgan Cox, congratulations on the new contract. Okay. Now, before we get out of here, let's get into some rumors. So this is what I want. Okay. This is what I want. I want one more. I want one more hitter. And I want that to either be Arik Armstead or Justin Simmons, man. Ideally Armstead, dude. Armstead, former 49er, Ran Carthon knows him well. You pair Armstead with Jeffrey Simmons. And this is what I wanted us to do for a while. Now, Danico Autry, he played down lineman a decent amount, and he did well. Now, if you get Arik Armstead in the mix, oh, man, this is the pairing with Jeffrey Simmons that, again, Autry was really good. But this would be really, really, really good and really fascinating. And I think they would kill it. And then Justin Simmons, apparently we're interested in him. The one question I have on that, though, he's the same age as Kevin Byard. Now, Byard did struggle a little bit with the Eagles, and he got released. Okay? But if you were going to get rid of Byard, why are you going to bring in Justin Simmons? Now, Simmons is mostly better. I'll say he's better today, sure. Over the history of their careers, sure. Barely though. They're both been Pro Bowl, All-Pro safeties. So the one thing is, if you felt that Byard wasn't in your long-term plans, why is Justin Simmons? So that's kind of odd. So that's why I kind of question. But I think he's a good player. I still think he has years left, and I just want that safety position filled. Okay, I'd much rather fill it in free agency than, because of course I don't think we're going to be able to draft one. I'm still anticipating we take a tackle, and I think edge is more on the radar than people are talking about. We're going to talk about one of the edges that we're interested in a moment, but the more positions that we fill, the better. And I would feel fine getting Justin Simmons, but I prefer Arik Armstead. If you can only sign one, and at this point I think we still have considerable cap space. Again, we got to sit down and actually look at these contracts and see what all the year one cap hits are. But I would imagine. And, Armstead to me would just be incredible next to Jeffrey Simmons. I think that pairing would be just exactly what you'd want. So absolutely have my eyes on that. Chase Young, there's interest between the Tennessee Titans and Chase Young. Now, make no doubt about it. Yes, Chase Young has been a considerable disappointment so far in the NFL for being a former second overall pick, an absolute beast at Ohio State. He should have came in and really should have been at least a future Hall of Famer. I think he made a Pro Bowl. Okay? Now, who did Denard Wilson work with last year? And who did he get the most out of in his career? Jadeveon Clowney. So, if you believe that you can get Jadeveon Clowney-like production out of Chase Young, now you got me very, very, very intrigued. Because now that we've added a Calvin Ridley, we didn't necessarily have a huge need of running back. We've added a Tony Pollard. We've added a Lloyd Cushenberry. Now I'm like, okay, I still think we could use an edge. Because Arden Key, he started off well last year, kind of faded. Harold Landry ended up playing well at the end of the last year. I like having 3 edges, okay? I love being 3 deep. I'd love to be 4 deep. Chase Young because he's going to sign to like a 1 or 2 year prove-it deal. And you could have gave a lot of the money you gave to Kenneth Murray, you could have saved for Chase Young. But if you could get him to reach his potential, that would be huge for this defense. And we know, again, Rand Carthon coming from the 49ers, deep defensive line. Love having a lot of depth on the defensive line. I'm intrigued. And we still have money. So I wouldn't do it for too much. You can't sign him for a 3-year deal. What's a 1 or 2 year deal, prove-it deal. Let him come in here, see if he improves, see if he shows more things. And then if he does, if it's a match made in heaven, you keep him. If not, you don't. But very intrigued because he still has immense potential, man. We can question maybe if it's effort. You can question maybe it was just a bad fit with the Commanders. He didn't produce much with San Francisco, but the pressures were up. The pressure rate was up, and it was only like half a year. Really still learning their system. So I still think there's more to gain there. And I look at a guy like a Roquan Smith, who, by the way, he wasn't bad for the Bears, but they were like, we're not getting the most out of him. They trade him to Baltimore, who, again, working with Denard Wilson. Then all of a sudden, he's a beast. Okay, he's the best he's ever been. Denard Wilson has had a great effect on a lot of these players. Chase Young. I'm intrigued in Chase Young. You don't have to go all in on him. You don't have to guarantee him a starting spot. You don't have to guarantee him nothing. Former 2nd overall pick. Look at what Clowney was able to do at Baltimore with Denard Wilson. I'd be interested in Chase Young, and as far as we're concerned, they are as well. So, let's see. Was there any other big rumors? Anyone that I missed? That's pretty much it in terms of the names that are floating out right now. Again, this is just day 1. Free agency will continue for days, and I will be here to continue to recap all of the moves that the Tennessee Titans are making. But there's a lot of moves. We're spending a lot of money. And you got to love it, man. Rand Carthon is cooking. He's doing exactly what he said he would do. And we'll see on that front. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention this. Now, how's it funny now? Last year we were talking about Treylon Burks is our number 1 wide receiver. Treylon Burks is because now he's our number 3. Okay? Good. Okay? Good. And then now Kyle Phillips is our number 4. And it'll be interesting to see. Well, maybe not. Maybe he just won't do anything. But it'll be kind of interesting to see if Burks can do something. If he can. If he can end up reaching that potential, Burks is a 3. If he is that first round talent that we drafted him to be, as a 3 next to Ridley and Hopkins, oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. If he can do it. I'm not saying he will. I'm not saying he's going to be healthy. I'm not saying anything of the sort. Okay, no way am I saying anything of the sort. But it'll be intriguing. And I like looking at the depth chart and seeing him 3rd. Okay? And this is, he still has 2 years left on his deal. So I wouldn't even say this is his last shot. But he's going down that depth chart, So we'll see. And then if we drafted a wide receiver 7, he's done. Okay? Then he's done. He's pushed down the depth chart too far. And at that point, maybe you should move him. But who was it that got traded the other day? For a 6th, it was for a 5th and the 6th, it was who was that? It was a wide receiver. I can't remember who it was now. But if he got, it was one of the more, way more production than Treylon Burks. I know that. Can't remember who it was right now. But if you looked at that wide receiver that got traded for a 5th and a 6th, maybe someone in the chat could remind me. Okay, Treylon Burks, you might get 1/6, maybe. Okay, you maybe might get that. So we'll see. Maybe this lights a fire in him. Hopefully he stays healthy, but we're not really relying on him anymore. And with Hopkins coming in and having production, and now Calvin Ridley coming in, you feel much better about Will Levis and his weapons. You feel much better about this offense. You feel much better about this team. And I said it 3 weeks ago when we talked about the cap space. Guys, for us to have been 6-11, okay, we lost Tannehill, okay? Well, who cares? We lost Henry. We traded away Byard. And then now we're adding all this talent. Guys, 6-11, I think, might be the worst we're going to get. I don't want to go too optimistic here, but now we're adding talent. And we're going to draft a premier talent at 7 and then a higher second-round pick. There's no reason why we shouldn't be a better team next year. So this little rebuild that we had to go through was pretty quick. And if Rand Carthon is able to have, it was Deontay Johnson. Yeah, thank you in the chat for saying who it was. So if you consider all of that, and Deontay Johnson, he got traded for Dante Jackson. It wasn't him. It was someone else. Shoot, who was it? That's gonna bother me if I can't think of it right now. Let me see. NFL trades. Let's see. Who was that? Who was that? Yeah, he was traded for Dante Jackson. Who was that wide receiver that I can't remember right now? Oh, Jerry Jeudy. Yeah, Jerry Jeudy. So Jerry Jeudy got traded for a 5th and a 6th. So, yeah. Okay, if Jerry Jeudy, who's actually producing, now he hasn't lived up to his potential, but hey, he's an 800-yard wide receiver, okay? And he still has potential. If Jerry Jeudy is getting traded for a 5th and a 6th, Treylon Burks might get it 1/6, maybe, okay? I thought we should have done the Jerry Jeudy deal. But now that we got Calvin Ridley, I'm not worried about it anymore. But when I saw a 5th and a 6th for Jerry Jeudy, I was like, wow, I would have done that. So, we'll see we'll see what happens with Treylon Burks. But now he's 3rd on the depth chart. Now Ty J's 2nd on the depth chart. We're adding talent to this roster. We have the coaching staff. I am feeling much better about this team. We still have to go through the draft. But I think we're going to contend for the play. As long as Will Levis if he just continues to play at the level he was last year, I think we're going to compete for the playoffs. And it's going to be tough. AFC's tough. So I'm not guaranteeing that. Okay, I'm not going to guarantee that we make it. But I think we're absolutely going to compete, and I'm absolutely looking forward to it. So that's going to do it for me here. Long stream today, but there's a lot to discuss. Again, I will be back later on this week if there's any other things that happen in free agency. Until next time, this has been MJ of Sports Fan Entertainment, and I'm out. See you all later.